All right, hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on something really special, something that feels a little bit like magic in the world of web development. We are talking about the simple, powerful elegance of HTMX 2.0.
So, if you're a web developer, tell me if this sounds familiar. You just want to build something, maybe something pretty simple, but before you even know it, you are tangled up in this complex maze of JavaScript frameworks, build steps, state management. It's a lot.
I mean, how did we get here? It feels like for years, the pendulum of web development has just been swinging like crazy. We went from these really simple server-rendered pages all the way over to these incredibly complex client-side applications that are powered by these super heavy JavaScript frameworks. And yeah, that swing has left us with mountains, literal mountains of boilerplate code. The amount of stuff you have to keep in your head just to get started can be huge, and it turns what should be a simple task into a really complex engineering problem. It kind of feels like we're just solving the same problems again and again, but with heavier and heavier tools each time.
But what if there was another way? What if we could find a better balance? Well, this is where our little magic show really kicks off. So let's introduce the star of the show, HTMX 2.0. And honestly, it feels less like some brand new complicated tech and more like an old friend who just learned an absolutely incredible new trick.
So what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, HTMX is this tiny library that lets you use all these cool modern browser features, like Ajax, the thing that lets you update parts of a page without a full reload, but you do it directly from your plain old HTML. No complex JavaScript needed. You just add a few special attributes to your tags.
And the philosophy behind it all is what makes it so compelling. See, instead of inventing some new, complex language just to add dynamic behavior to a page, HTMX asks this really simple question. Why not just extend the language we're already using all the time? It's a beautifully simple idea.
Okay, enough talk. It's time for our first act. We're going to perform a classic bit of web magic, loading brand new data onto a page without that clunky full refresh. We'll call this one click to load.
And believe it or not, it all comes down to these three simple attributes. First, you've got hxget. That just tells the button, hey, go get some data from the /users URL. Second, hxtarget. That tells it where the response should go. In this case, into an element with the ID user-list. And third, hxswap. That just defines how to put it there, just by swapping the inner HTML. That's it. That's the whole trick. And now for the big reveal. You click the button and boom! The user list just appears. No page refresh. And the best part? Look at that last column. We did all of that with exactly 0 lines of custom JavaScript. Now that is magic. And the best part is your server doesn't have to do anything fancy either. It's not sending back some complex JSON object that you have to loop through and parse and render. Nope, it just sends back the final product. A tiny, simple little snippet of HTML. It's super efficient and just incredibly easy to work with.
Okay, so that first trick was pretty impressive, right? But as you ready for the main event? Let's take what we just learned and build it into something even more powerful. We're going to create real-time live form validation as a user is typing.
So just imagine this. A user is signing up for your service. They're typing in a username, and you want to tell them instantly if that name is available. Now, traditionally, this would mean writing a whole bunch of JavaScript event handlers. But with HTMX, well, you guessed it. It's just a few more attributes. The secret here is an attribute called hxtrigger. We can tell it to fire off a request on a key press, but, and this is the clever part, with a 500 millisecond delay. This little technique is called debouncing, and it is absolutely brilliant. It stops you from spamming your own server with a request on every single keystroke. Instead, it just waits for the user to pause for a moment.
So let's just compare this head to head. The old way, the user fills out the entire form, clicks submit, waits for the page to load, and only then finds out their username was already taken. The HTMX way? Instant, helpful feedback right in the moment. It just creates a much better user experience.
So what does this all mean for, the big picture of web development? It's really easy to look at this and just see another library, but it feels like more than that. It feels like a philosophical shift. It's about finding a new and frankly, a more sensible balance.
And let's be really clear about something. The goal of HTMX is not to kill JavaScript. It's not trying to replace these incredibly powerful frameworks like React or Vue in the places where they are truly needed. It's about restoring balance. It brings a radically simpler approach back to the table for the vast majority of web interactions that, let's be honest, don't need a full-blown single-page application. It's really about using the right tool for the job.
So what's the ultimate payoff? Well, you get a dramatically simpler approach. Your code is way more maintainable because the logic lives right there in the HTML where it's being used. And that means less stuff for your team to keep in their heads, which lets you build really powerful applications a whole lot faster.
And that brings us to our final question, the one I want to leave you with. As you start thinking about that next feature or that next big project you're going to build, just take a second and ask yourself, does it really need all that complexity? Could your next project be this simple? Thanks so much for watching.